So
fireball effect. Yeah.
You like that?
yeah, how about that story about the mind map? That is crazy.
Isn't that good? That's beautiful.
Yeah, if you could get that, if you get that involved with every game, that would be fantastic. Just where the player, you have a mind map already laid out, and then you let the players not screw with it, but affect it, maybe even unknowingly, and you can change the outcome.
Who made the deck of cards that did all the character backstories?
Well, I have some commercial ones that I bought from some guy that had a lot of that stuff. They were for NPCs, but I would hand them out to people and just say, pull something off several of these cards for your background, just so they could quick generate stuff. But this actually dovetails really perfectly into our topic for the evening, which is, I think what is it that draws people to GMing? I think it's that sense of being able to tell a story, to involve other people, to create a sense of community. All those things are pretty easy. But what is like everybody's like golden rule? Like what is it that, and not necessarily involving every part of the game, just like a golden rule you have for prep or a golden rule you have for presentation or whatever it might be. Why don't we just, I don't know what order we want to go in. Why don't we start with you, Brian?
Okay, let's skip me for just 1 sec.
Okay, then let's go to KC.
Yeah, Matt first.
Golden rules for running.
Yeah, for sure. It's unfortunate that we had Lou on there saying how he lets the characters run the story, because my golden rule, I guess, if I'm running a game, is the story. And you mentioned somebody falling in love with their story and the way that they're running it. Back in the day, I suppose we did a lot of sandbox, and in fact, it was great that Dungeon Magazine was around, because they got we've got our big sandbox, and if you want to run a cut adventure, you can do it, and then you go back to your sandbox and have fun and go raid the next castle or go back to the tavern or whatever. But now I tend to create these grand story arcs. So I think my golden rule is story. Like make sure that there's a conceivable, continuous story for the players to muck around in, I guess.
Yeah. Do you always have beginning, middle, end, 3-act, or?
I do, I do. Yeah, for sure. I have a definite beginning, middle, and conclusion, and then what the characters do in there can affect that for sure. But definitely not, I guess, nimble enough, as Lou was making it sound like he is, or Frank House, for example, not nimble enough to react on the fly.
Yeah, what were you going to say? Either Jimmy or Brian?
Brian.
Okay. So I'm going to riff off what Matt said, because I think our heads are very, very similar. I have one major rule when I'm running a game. Story is greater than rules. Okay. Mm-hmm. Every time.
Oh yeah.
Just because the rules say one thing, if it contradicts the story, the rules are wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'd say if I can, real quick, I think that's one of the biggest questions that we will always find on social media is new GMs struggling with that. They're like, hey, my character or my players did this and it totally derailed my campaign. Well, story is greater than rules.
Yeah, you just got to get quicker at laying down rails.
Yep.
Essentially. What about you, Jimmy?
It's just for me. It's just about having fun. So it always has been. I want to make sure the characters are enjoying the game, and then I am then too. So, and if they're not
would you say that means, like, if you detected, let's say, 2 of the players, you can just tell they're disengaging from it. Do you try to assess that, like, just based on what's going on and make adjustments?
So
just kill them. Well, that's making an adjustment. That's reducing your player count by 2. Well, look what I rolled. It says -2 players.
Yeah, so that's right. No, I mean, it's recently I haven't truly worried about it, but I think in the beginning, when I was getting started doing online and trying to understand the medium and the interaction, because it's difficult there when you're just chatting over a mic here and headphones, you could tell there's a disengagement, and so you got to punt quickly. But I had a couple and I don't know if I still have them on the YouTube channel, we're butted heads, and it was, if you're not enjoying it, then if I'm failing, I need to know. But if what you could tell was they were trying to take the story and they're molded to them, and they wanted to go off rails with it. And so it was, appreciate you playing, but it's not gelling here. And I think that affected the other players. And I was more cognizant. I wanted them to enjoy it. If I had the bad apple, okay, well, we missed out here. Thanks for playing. I mean,
right.
So
it seems to me too, like those adjustments for the players happen in game. Sometimes you try to steer it back. The GM is not allowed that latitude. You're there. You've made a commitment. If there's even one person left at the player table, you can't just get up and ditch it. So, you can make adjustments between sessions, but sometimes those adjustments that players need to make have to happen a little more immediately, I guess.
No, and as you definitely have grown with learning the channel and demon on the channel, you can hear it. You can understand it when their tempo, their rising of their voices. There's, you can know when you're on track. And then there's sometimes where you got a night and everybody's just off. And
oh yeah, for sure. So
get the show done. So.
That's why for grown-ups, you drink while you play. So if the playing doesn't work out, you can just go back to drinking.
Yep.
What a great answer.
I think those are all really interesting answers. And I think especially in Jimmy's case, being online, primarily, that's what he's known for. I know he runs games at conventions and stuff too, but
mostly
it's a tricky thing. So, when we all sit down, like my golden rule, I guess, would be closer probably to what Lou was talking about, which is stay super, super nimble and just wait for the players to tell you the game they want to have. And I do clippings, like digital clippings. So I'll just go find a monster and a thing and something from here and something from there. And I will put it up on the wall, print it out, and I put the strings. I put the pins up, or I mind map or whatever it might be. And I have just enough of a loose structure that wherever they wander, I kind of know who they might know. And then I just run it from there. And so for me, it's just all about not getting too rigid, because my players have come to expect that they can pretty much do what they want. It'll all just have ramifications. If they decide to go south when it's supposed to be north, that's easy. You flip the map around. But if they decide that they're not going to engage with the Kingpin and they're going to go down to the docks, I just have some of the Kingpin's guys be in the docks,
Right.
Right.
You don't have to change really anything. Or if you're trying to teach them that they're really on a bad lead, there are no Kingpin guys in the docks. So you're obviously at a dead end. You got to try something new. So I think a lot of this segues into the session zero concept that we've talked about a few times before, being absolutely critical, finding out what style of play your group likes, discussing themes, levels of violence, levels of any type of mature content you're going to have in your game. Like that goes a long way, I think, to creating a positive session and allow you to actually follow through on your golden rule, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just round around. Did anybody have comments about that?
No, I think you absolutely have to make sure. I guess I have, unlike Jimmy, I have the benefit of playing with my same game group. Like my go-to group is the same people I've been gaming with since high school. So I know.
Nerds.
I know their I know their level of. I know the thresholds, right? Left and right bounds.
No, yes, you do.
But it is important to establish, hey, when I'm running this game, this is what I'm going for. This is a high fantasy, lots of magic, blah, blah, blah. This is low fantasy, grit, dark sun, low magic.
Right.
Those bounds definitely have to be established for sure.
Well, I've seen you run at conventions, and I mean, you don't have the benefit there of those long-term relationships. These are people a lot of times who are really just thrown together by chance,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's also works, Danny, because when we're chatting here, you are more improv, but more, I don't want to use that homebrew, but you've developed your own world. See, and I am more, because the timing, it's been more module based. And so I am at a certain standpoint where I'm trying to take I'll be honest, I'm trying to take that story because I've already got my boundaries are already set, I think. And most of the time the players know that. But there will be a few times where they want to put their foot or their toe over that line, and you get yourself back over here.
Yeah. So two things. One, I think so. The golden rule for this hobby might be that everything you're hearing here is all valid.
Mm-hmm.
These are all equally valid if you have the right players, if you have the right intent, if you have, there's a lot of things that go to it, predicate to it, but really, the way Jimmy runs like a written adventure
It's
is
terrible. I mean, wait, no,
well, he's usually really, 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 really drunk. But aside from that, like that
What?
is the way
As a player,
that is the way this game was played by probably half of the people that played it for the last 40 years. So, and it's certainly running it. The reason these books were written this way and people keep buying them is because that's the way people ran. So I think all these things are right. And I'm curious as to like, what is the thing that throws a story-based game off the rails? Like, what is that moment? Because things like I go the wrong direction, you can whip the map around. What are those moments when you're like, shit, like, now I'm told, like they kill the king in the first scene or something like that. Is it that drastic?
they burned down the tavern.
They take out an NPC they need to find something from. So now I have to figure out how to put that clue back somewhere.
So now this is the gritty stuff. So you, Jimmy. So, okay, I just killed the bartender who knew everybody in town and knew all their dirt. What do you do now? What do you do?
Someone else gets that knowledge then, or they find it written somewhere. The clue will be there. You can find that answer, but you have to do that improv. And what is he saying? I talked right over him.
I said the illiterate barkeep kept a journal.
Yeah. So we got to speak in quotes. I'll drop that somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so what about everybody else? Like Brian, when you're running a game, how do you know it's going off the rails?
Oh, there are moments because no matter what, I don't know. Maybe this is again probably just my style, but I like to be the secret railroader. I like to give the players choices and make them think that they are, of their own volition. But then ultimately, I'm seeding those things with foreshadowing and things so that they do what I want. It's railroading, but it's their choice to be railroaded, right? And when that goes off the rails and suddenly it diverts in a way that I wasn't planning on, or in a horrific way, like the burning down the inn thing, there was a reason I referenced that. One time I had some bandits living in the walls of this tavern, and they had secret doors, everything, blah, blah, blah. Players figure it out. They burned down the entire tavern to stop the, like murder hobos do.
Seems perfectly logical to me.
And I'm like, where do I go from here? So I had to very quickly on my feet, just be like, okay, so the bandits, obviously they weren't all killed. Their real hideout was in a cave somewhere. Maybe there's a tunnel, blah, blah, blah. And you just murdered a whole bunch of innocent people.
Right. Do you buy time by having the cops show up?
I don't remember.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's another thing you can do. You murder a bunch of people in an arson. You can do that. Does it matter if the players fuck you over or the dice do? What about that time?
I don't ever let the dice screw me over.
Agreed.
Do you roll them in the open?
No.
Who rolls them in the open?
So maybe
Jimmy does.
75% of the time I do.
Yeah, me too.
And like story wise, that kind of thing, I probably roll behind the tables and it doesn't really matter, right? But often when it's just in combat, I totally roll right in front of the players and I'm vicious. I started.
Go ahead.
I started rolling in front of the players because I was so wicked with the dice rolls. Now, conversely, when I'm the player, I'm dead. I just cannot roll to save my life. It doesn't matter. Ask Stephen Redley McFarland at the Pathfinder 1 playtest at GaryCon. Oh, my Lord. I just cannot roll as a player.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just was fortunate enough to have people continuously throw money at me to keep me re-rolling But yeah, I agree. I should backpedal a little bit on what I said. I will definitely roll in combat. I suppose that's a big difference. I'll roll to hits all day long, but if it's something important or if I want to add a level of mystery to, like, hey, why the heck is he rolling right now? I'll roll it behind the screen or conceal the roll or whatever. I'm not going to let it derail the story just because the NPC rolled a 1 on his search perception test or something. But yeah, combat, I agree. I'll roll that out in the open.
So this leads to, this is like a rabbit hole question here, because now this leads to, what if your player hears you, any one of you, say, hey, if you kill the NPC, I'll just make sure that the information is with the witch. Or if sometimes I roll secretly, and when it fucks me over, I just ignore that die roll. Is this what people mean about, like, when they say whether it's a game or a narrative exercise? Or because if it's a game, it should all count. These rules are here for a reason. If you failed, then that's on you to eat that failure. What do you got? Stories greater than the rules. Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Mm-hmm. I just know that there definitely are a lot of people that feel if you're fudging rolls or hiding rolls or whatever it might be, that's somehow cheating. I mean, what do you guys feel about that? Is it like, is that word appropriate, or is it, what is that?
No, I don't think that it's cheating, and I suppose it's the length of time we've been playing the game. You learn as a game master over time, versus some of the people who are new to the hobby don't understand this yet. And it's clear, like I said before, it's clear based on the number of questions you get on the forums. Hey, the players just derailed my game because you rolled a natural 20 and killed the big bad guy in one hit. I think over time you learn that you have to be able to adapt and massage the story a little bit in order to make it
phrasing
fun for everybody. I knew I was going to get it for that one. You have to be able. The story has to be malleable enough for you to make it fun for everybody. And if that means you're cheating, then yeah, maybe.
So your love of story has baked into it the idea of malleability, adaptability, being able to dig or zag where it might need to go, as long as it doesn't stop being about rescuing the princess and start being about dwarves in space. To use a really wide example, as long as you're still on that main line, there's a lot of flexibility you can use.
I'm never going to use what I just described, the malleability as we're calling it right now. I'm never going to use that to to screw the players or to screw them, screw with them. I'm going to do that to make sure that it's still fun.
Yeah. The only example I can give on that before I move on to the next thing is in the closing of my Reason campaign, I ran an 8-month-long campaign, and at the end they faced the big bad. And I'm not a fan of running the tank all the way to 0 unless, we're all up. It's like 3 a.m. We're going to fight this thing to the last hit point. I get that. That's super awesome. But most games, you don't need to do that. So I went into the final game and I just said, I'm not going to let my bad guy fall, no matter what the players do, unless they have like invoked apocalypse or something, just they can wipe it off the map. No matter what they do, that thing's not leaving the field until it gets one shot with every one of its big attacks.
Agreed.
If it can't put that group in the dirt with all of its shit going off, he dies. And I could tell by about the 4th round, like no matter what I did next, I had like some sort of disintegrating cloud that I could spew out on them, and it didn't catch any of them. Like it was a complete open frame. And I was like, okay, and I just looked at everybody, and one of my players looked like, we fucking did you, didn't we? I was like, you know what? You totally did. Next round, fell down.
Danny's absolutely right, though. Like, I think that especially when you're facing an important encounter, I think you should cheat. I think you should cheat often. You should make it so that the players get to do the cool, awesome things. But at the same time, the monsters should remain standing long enough to make the players question their success and make some choices. And If they choose to press on, let them, you don't have to let them win, but they've earned it, right? So I think it's a great point.
And this is not GM 101. This stuff is like GM. This is like graduate class. We may have like oversold the 101 because this.
We talked like 2 points an hour.
Yeah, I know. So really quickly, let's just jump to another one. We got time.
Yeah.
And we can run over by a couple minutes, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right off the bat, the trope you never use and what you use instead as a GM.
Ooh.
Oh,
So anybody can go first. Jimmy prefers to go last, so I'm not looking at you, Jim.
Oh man.
All right.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll jump. So I think the example I used is never starting the adventure in a tavern.
Yep.
Because that is like the most old, cheesy, dried up trope of all. I mean, it depends. Like, again, we say there's no wrong kind of game. And if you're running a campy sort of fun game, go right ahead, right? It's not what I do. It's not what I enjoy in my games. But what I try to do is make every adventure that we play start in a different fashion and grip the players in a different way. So that it's never dry. It's never like, oh, I bet that first encounter is going to be goblins, it should be something different every time in order to get the players' attention. And I really like the in media res, where you simply begin doing something. The story begins with action. It doesn't have to be combat. It could be chasing. It could be investigating. It could be anything, right? But you should maybe be doing something other than you walk into a bar. What do you do? The players don't know. You're not really telling them any story. So give them the clues, get them into the action, and put your the foot down on the pedal a little bit from the get-go.
Okay, right on. And it would seem to me too that the purpose of the inn, right, just like in real life, is to mingle and get to know people. But if you've taken the time in session 0 to create some backstories between people,
absolutely,
it completely obviates the need for that function. Right. What about the rest of you guys? What about you, Jim?
I am trying to think of work recently. Wow.
He uses all the tropes. He uses them all.
Yeah, I don't have, there's no out of things out of bound for me.
What do you mean don't use the tavern? That's bullshit.
So, yeah.
Taverns rule, dude. Taverns rule.
Bastard.
Table flip.
Next, that's a great question, Danny. Let me think about that a moment.
We'll come back to you. What about you, Casey?
Yeah, so I don't have one in particular that I don't use. I would say that I try and put a spin on it if I'm going to use something that is as generic as the tavern or the Rogues Guild, the Thieves Guild is acting up again. If I feel like it's necessary to go there, then I'm going to put some sort of spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the tavern's a mimic. That might be a bit extreme, but something like that.
That's great. That's great.
The tavern is a mimic who is the Thieves Guild master. Maybe something along those lines. But I don't have that many that I won't go to. I try. I think I would probably avoid going to starting in a tavern where the elf wizard comes up and says they need a hand clearing out their tower, something like that.
Yeah, I tend to rely heavily, just personally, on the backstories and the secrets that people have from each other and all that. We do a lot of that, and we've done that for a long time. It's like on people's character sheets in all my games. But I would say, like, my trope is I don't use anything just for the sake of using it. Like, I wouldn't use the tavern, not because taverns aren't cool or that you can't use it, but if it didn't make sense for the game, I wouldn't do it just to do it. So a lot of times, like a theme, if I have a theme of love, like there's the prince and the princess of two nations, then that game is definitely going to start on a bridge, because I want people from the giddy up to know, hey, this is tied to what's going on here. And in my world, if it's going to start at a tavern or a bridge, you better believe that shit's exploding or something, like that in media race you were talking about. Like, if it starts in an inn, you know it's not just going to be like, what do you guys want to do? And we're going to all have beers. Like, rats are going to come out of the walls and this weird apparition is going to show up at the top of the stairs. So I don't think those are necessarily tropes unless you make them into Lord of the Rings bar scene.
Right.
But
And
you know
there's a
what?
ranger sitting in the corner, and
Yeah,
Tropes are tropes for a reason, though, because they work, right?
yeah, just like cliches.
That's
just
true.
like cliches. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have proven over time to be useful. I guess, and for new players, they don't know any better. I mean, hate to tell you all the
they
noobs
don't.
out there, but like all my noob moves could keep most people happy for years of gameplay. But now I play with people of your caliber who've done a lot of it. They've seen all that stuff, and I just don't feel like subjecting to them to more of it is usually very interesting for them. And honestly,
I think that is, if I can, that's a whole session in and of itself, is that you have this influx of players who have not had that experience. We feel like they're tropes because
We use them over,
Right,
use them over and over.
right.
And over.
for 30 years. And people that are new to the game, I mean, meeting in a tavern to help the elf, meeting that ranger to save, to rescue him from his tower, clear out his tower or whatever. I mean, that's pretty dope.
yeah,
like the
agreed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, sometimes I like games where I don't have to think that much. I like a game where we're going to go to the tavern, then we're going to go to the guild, and then we're going to, because I can just like relax. I don't have to like play my brains out. So do we have
Got a question.
do we have a fan question out there that we wanted to
I
ask?
think we did. Yeah, Ginger Spice or Die had one from earlier. I was scroll
Why
back.
don't someone else take that? I'm not watching chat right now.
She can repost.
I'm trying to
Here it
wrangle
is.
you hooligans.
Well, I thought I was reposting it. Here. Is this not copying it? There we go. Boom.
Yeah, so we ran out of time, but we will do the one question. So do you guys think there could ever be a modern MMORPG, so online RPG like Warcraft, World of Warcraft, or whatever?
Mhm.
They can have the depth and feel of tabletop games and have it in an RPG type aspect. And then she follows up with, in today's age where most MMORPGs are theme parks compared to that player interaction. So is there a vision in the future where you can see MMORPGs matching the fun of tabletop RPG? Dan.
Yes, without question. But it begs a lot of questions, like how much AI are you going to put in? Are there going to be live GMs involved? Because I can imagine a game where half the players join to play or two-thirds or three-quarters join to play and a quarter join to run. And and Neverwinter Nights had this mode, right? Where you could have expanded that to an MMORPG. And then if you had sophisticated enough AI, the truth is human beings are not that difficult to trick into feeling as though they have unlimited choice.
What?
Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book about the spaghetti sauces, right? There's 40 spaghetti sauces, but really we choose only on certain concepts. So I think you could teach an AI to be pretty sophisticated. The trick would be for everyone. That's the thing that's going to take a long time.
It would be amazing.
I think, if I can, real quick, I think I agree with everything you said. Only to add that, to expand on what you said about some of the people being the game masters. I think if the moment that you have an MMO where game masters, a real life person, is an arbiter in the game, I think you'll expand the feel of an MMO exponentially. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was just immediately thinking of Westworld. Have we all seen Westworld?
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So imagine where AIs are every NPC, and you can walk into a world and interact with it and make waves and a splash, and those ripples continue to have effect. I think that role-playing games are superior to video games because
I do too.
this is that social interaction.
Yep.
And that's my number one reason why I play them. But there are so many video games out there right now that have these immersive worlds that are just absolutely gorgeous. And the stories have been written by people who've played role-playing games for 30-ish years and have done fantastic jobs. So can they rival a role-playing game? Absolutely. But it depends what you, or the player, are playing for.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they can. I know I would go back to the old URU Live was the old Mist online. They tried it, and it was ahead of their time. And I got on it for quite a while, and they just, financing the technical difficulty, because it was late 2000s. They put that thing out there, and it had I think that's what you were talking about right there, but it just didn't get out of the gate because it wasn't ready yet. So,
Yep.
My brother, my stepbrother rather, was a mud.
Oh yeah.
I guess. And I'd go down there, and he would just create. He would program a remote control car, and it would go off into another room and do the XYZ, interact with players. And I mean, if you can get to that level with the graphics and the immersive environment that we have today with current MMOs, I think you've got a great shot.
Yeah, I loved what you said, Brian. I'm gonna put this in my tickler file, because imagine the idea you meet that tickler file. I'm gonna put it in my Brian.
It's getting late.
I'm gonna take that advice. I'm gonna put it in my tickler file. So the idea of you talk to that one NPC, and that NPC is a member of a faction.
Mm-hmm.
And then that NPC also has a circle of associates. So as soon as he knows something, his circle of associates sort of know it, and his faction has an inkling of it.
Absolutely.
The more interaction you have with people, either him, circle, or the faction, it starts to build until finally you have a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Amongst that faction, based on your interactions with some of these people. That seems completely doable. And I was just going to close in saying, when we used to play DDO, we role played while we were running through DDO. So
Bravo.
we role played our characters, and that determined who got pulls from the chests. So,
oh, nice.
Role player of the encounter
Amazing.
got the next pull.
Oh,
great.
Everybody role played. Everybody wanted a pull.
Good on you.
But then you got checked off the list. So until everybody got a pull.
Mm-hmm.
So if you weren't the strongest role player, you had to wait, but you still didn't get dicked out of, cool stuff. So, okay. Well, hey, that wraps it up. That was a really interesting conversation with Lou Agresta. His just one last quick shout out for him. Grimmer Space, the Kickstarter's over. Pre-orders are going up. You'll be able to find out. We'll post some links in the doobly-doo when we post to YouTube later this week. We'll also make sure we put some posts out for him and Rone Barton's Grimmer Space pre-order. That's all going to be happening soon. And I would really encourage anybody who's going to Gen Con, first of all, come find us, because we want to totally talk to you. If you've been watching this here, at this audience size, if you can come up and prove to me that you've actually watched a video, I will buy you a beer. That will only apply until Gen Con. And but I think stop by and see the Iron GM stuff too, because that shit is off the hook. It is really an experience to be experienced. And then I don't think we got all the way through GM 101, so I think we're gonna have to come back at a later date. And
we're gonna have to have a part 2 for sure.
Do more.
Yeah, we had a lot on the table. It was a great conversation with Lou, but we got a lot more to talk about.
Stay tuned to the channel.
And
we're bringing Lost Mine. Well, we're bringing Lost Mines. We're going to bring the newbie group to the channel.
Excellent! Welcome.
3 players. 2 more are going to be. I'm going to get them signed up. We'll be doing a Friday night game, and we'll come watch the show here on Wizards of the Coast. And that's the plan. I will announce it, have it on Facebook, but I need 2 more beginners, and then we'll be ready to go. So.
Perfect.
And if you are one of our patrons, expect an invite to our Sanctuary board game.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I've seen the map.
Coded
Another
Sanctuary
show
into
is gonna
Fantasy
have
Grounds. And
pretty
we're
quick.
going to play it.
And Jimmy, if you want me to clean up that map, I'm all good. So Matt, real quick, let's talk a little bit about, we're going to be at Gen Con for the first year ever with some new allies. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
We are going to be here with World Anvil. We actually have burgeoning, I guess, a growing partnership with those folks. Swelling, that's good. That's a good one. Swelling partnership with World Anvil that, if you're not familiar, is a fantastic world building application, worldanvil.com. They are going to be at Gen Con, not only for the first time at Gen Con, but their first convention ever. So we're looking to make sure that it's an awesome time for them. Come and check out our content that from Blackwood Society that we're going to have on the World Anvil that we'll be displaying down in our game room, and meet the folks from World Anvil as well.
Janet's coming over.
It wouldn't hurt either, just to mention too, Matt, that what World Anvil is.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to detail that, but I think all I want to say as an intro to that is all the ways we've talked about making games and organizing your content and doing different things with it. My super loose, mind mappy, full of tentacles and eyeballs way of doing it, you can do that in World Anvil. You want to make a story that's got a lot of linear beats and structure, you can do that in World Anvil. You know it better than me, Matt.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's one of the it is one of the most comprehensive world building environments that I've ever used. I've had what I guess amounts to some of their competitors. I've used those for years, and this is light years beyond. And there's more to come too. There's got a ton of stuff that's about to hit the shelf.
That they have
on their application.
Yep.
The thing I'm so impressed with is the really modern interface, because you can actually, it's not a lot of data entry and stuff until you get down to the content level. You can like jump in and grab different elements and rearrange them. It's really slick.
Yeah. So we'll be there with them. We'll be there with World Anvil at Gen Con, and really looking forward to the interaction. And like Danny said, if you can come out and shake our hand, we'd be happy to.
And we'll be downstairs, Danny, right? We'll be.
We're gonna be doing lots of social media. We're gonna be tweeting a storm up and all that kind of stuff, trying to kind of let people know. And I'd actually like to have a little pop up when we're there. We can bring along some cool stuff from TPK, from Delving Wood, from Blackwood, and we'll do maybe a little giveaway down there. Gotta be careful. The people who run that big hall, they don't want you giving stuff away too much. But we'll figure out a covert way to get swag in the hands of our Patreons.
Just to throw this out there, I will be hanging out at the Wolf Lair booth, maybe 25% of my time at Gen Con. And if for those of you who aren't aware, Wolf Lair are the guys that make Hero Lab.
Yep.
So come say hi. I'm sure we'll all come be there at some point in time. We may have some swag there for those of you who have watched the show. Love the idea.
Yep. And Blackwood
shirt. Like, good stuff. Not yeah.
So Blackwood will also be there representing.
Not the body, no.
With some of our Irafear series stuff. We're running some Call of Cthulhu Open stuff. We're teaming up with a couple of different groups there that run off-site games. Novus is helping us with our Call of Cthulhu stuff, and 37 Zombies. Much shouts out to Lori for helping get us in there. And we're going to be doing a lot of cool content. We're going to be running some cool stuff. So we hope to see people there. I guess the last thing I have to do is beg you all to dig through that couch for loose change and get out there. There you go. I knew there was going to be a sign. Jump over to Patreon, whatever level you can support us. Obviously, just keep checking us out. That's the kind of love we really need. But it wouldn't hurt to, we're not really doing this particularly. I think Lou said it really well. Right now, we're not necessarily doing this to make any money. We just don't want it to cost anything. So, that's the first step we got to be in. And like he also said, we believe this is going to succeed, not only as a channel, but as content and ideas. We want this to be a factory where we listen to you people out there and find out what you dig, what you don't, and make stuff that you dig. Yeah, so Patreon, we definitely want you over there checking us out. Keep following us here. This has been the July 1st, 2019 episode of Wizards of the Couch with Lou Agresta. I'd like to thank my fellow hosts, Matt and Brian and Jimmy. And just signing off for tonight. Have a great one. Keep gaming.
Thanks for watching, folks.